In 1998, in the city of Paris, something magical happened. A stadium filled with 80,000 people, millions more watching on television around the world. France was playing Brazil in the final of the World Cup. The biggest game in football, the biggest game in the world. And on that night, one man carried the hopes of an entire nation on his shoulders. His name was Zinedine Zidane. He scored 2 goals in that match. 2 goals with his head. The crowd screamed. The nation celebrated. France had won the World Cup for the first time in its history. But here is the thing that most people do not know. 20 years before that night, Zinedine Zidane was a shy, quiet boy living in a poor neighborhood in Marseille. He barely spoke French at home. His family consisted of immigrants from Algeria. His father worked hard every day to put food on the table. And when young Zinedine told people he wanted to be a footballer, many of them laughed. Impossible, they said. A boy like you, from a neighborhood like yours? Football is not for you. But Zinedine Zidane did not listen to them. Today, you are not just going to learn about a football player. You are going to learn about a boy who refused to let his circumstances define him. You are going to improve your English while discovering one of the most inspiring stories in the history of sport. So sit back, relax, and listen carefully, because this is the story of Zinedine Zidane, the street kid who became a genius. Zinedine Zidane was born on June 23, 1972, in the city of Marseille, in the south of France. But Marseille was not where he grew up. His family lived in a neighborhood called La Castellane. It was a rough, tough housing estate where life was hard and opportunities were few. A housing estate is a group of large apartment buildings where many families live close together. The buildings were gray concrete. The streets were narrow. Money and hope were both scarce. Zidane's parents came from Algeria, a country in North Africa. His father, Smail, worked as a warehouse keeper, storing and moving goods in a large building. His mother, Malika, stayed at home to raise the children. They had 5 children. Zinedine was the youngest. The family lived in a small apartment. Not much space, not much money. But there was something else in that apartment. Something that would change Zinedine's life forever. A football. In the streets of La Castellane, the children played football every day. They played in the narrow streets. They played in the empty spaces between the buildings. They played until it was too dark to see the ball. The older boys were rough and fast. The ball bounced off concrete walls. You had to control it quickly or lose it. That was Zinedine's first classroom. And among those children, one boy was different. Zinedine was quiet. He was shy. He did not talk much. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Some people thought he was too quiet, too shy, too gentle. But when he touched the football, something changed. The ball seemed to stick to his feet. He could control it like no one else. He could turn, twist, and move in ways that made other children stop and watch. A friend from the neighborhood, a boy named Raked, later said, "When Zizo had the ball, you could not take it from him. Not even the older boys. He was like glue." This was his gift. This was his talent. And this was the only way he knew how to express himself. In other words, the football was his voice. When he could not say what he felt, he showed it with his feet. But life was not easy for young Zinedine. France in the 1970s and 1980s was not always kind to immigrant families. An immigrant is a person who moves to a new country to live. Many people looked down on families from Algeria. They called them names. They treated them as less than French. Zinedine's parents were immigrants. They worked hard, but they were often treated unfairly. Zinedine felt this. He saw it in the eyes of some teachers. He heard it in the words of some strangers. And it hurt him. But he had his family. And he had his family. And he had his football. At the age of 10, Zinedine joined a local football club called US Saint Henri. It was a small club in a small neighborhood. The pitch was full of holes. The changing rooms were cold. But for Zinedine, it was everything. On his first day of training, he arrived carrying a worn-out ball. The coach saw him juggle it 10 times without letting it touch the ground. He stopped and asked, "Where did you learn that?" Zinedine just pointed toward the streets. From that moment, the coach knew this boy was special. He trained hard. He played hard. He showed his talent. Soon, a bigger club noticed him. SO Septemos Valence. He moved there and continued to improve. But then, at the age of 14, something happened that almost ended his dream forever. A coach watched him play. The coach was not impressed. He said Zinedine was too small, too thin, too slow. He said Zinedine did not have the body for professional football. You are not good enough, the coach said. You should find something else to do with your life. Imagine hearing those words at the age of 14. Imagine being told that your dream is impossible, that your talent is not enough, that you should give up. Most children would have cried. Most children would have stopped playing. Most children would have believed the coach. But Zinedine Zidane was not like most children. He did not argue. He did not fight. He simply went home, picked up his football, and went back to the streets. He practiced more. He trained harder. He played longer. He spent hours dribbling around obstacles, hitting the ball against a wall, controlling it with both feet. He refused to accept the coach's judgment. Later that week, his father Smail saw him practicing alone in the dark. He did not interrupt. He just watched from the window. Then he turned to his wife and said quietly, "He will prove them wrong. I know it." No one else heard those words, but they planted something deep in Zinedine's heart. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been told that you are not good enough? Have you ever had someone look at you and say, "You cannot do this"? If you have, then you understand Zidane. You understand the quiet fire that burns inside a person who refuses to give up. At the age of 14, Zinedine was invited to join a training center run by the French Football Federation. It was a chance to train with the best young players in the country. But there was a problem. The training center was far from home. Zinedine would have to leave his family. He would have to live in a new place with new people. And he was still very shy, very quiet, very young. His parents were worried, but they also knew that this was his dream, so they let him go. And here's where the story gets interesting. At the training center, Zinedine did not shine immediately. The other boys were bigger, faster, stronger. They came from better neighborhoods with better training. Zinedine felt out of place. He felt like he did not belong. But then, one afternoon, during a routine five-a-side drill, Zinedine did something unforgettable. He dribbled past 3 defenders, nutmegged the 4th. A nutmeg is pushing the ball between the opponent's legs and then chipped the goalkeeper. The coach stopped the session and called him aside. "Where did you learn to play like that?" the coach asked. Zinedine looked down at his feet. He thought about the streets of La Castellane, the concrete walls, the narrow pads, the hours of practice until his legs ached. "On the streets," he said quietly. And that was the moment when the coaches realized something important. Zinedine Zidane did not learn football in a training center. He did not learn it from books or videos. He learned it on the streets, where every mistake cost you the game, where every touch had to be perfect, where there was no coach to tell you what to do. He learned it the hard way, and that made him different. In May 1989, just weeks before his 17th birthday, Zinedine made his professional debut. The club was AS Cannes, a team in the south of France. He signed a professional contract, which means he became a paid footballer, no longer just a boy playing for fun. He was young, only 16 years old. He was nervous. He was still very quiet. But on the pitch, he was a different person. His first match for the first team came on May 18, 1989. It was against Nantes, played on a rainy evening. Only a few thousand people were in the stadium. But for Zinedine, it was the beginning of everything. He came on as a substitute. His first touch of the ball was a perfect pass that created a goal chance. The crowd clapped. His teammates patted his back. And in that moment, he knew this was where he belonged. 2 years later, on a cold February night in 1991, Zidane scored his first professional goal, a long shot that curled into the top corner. His father, watching on a small TV at home, had tears in his eyes. Over the next few years, Zinedine grew as a player. He became stronger, faster, more confident. His skills improved. His understanding of the game deepened. He had mentors at the club, veteran players who taught him how to read the game, how to know where the ball would go before it arrived. But he was still shy, still quiet, still the boy from Castellane who spoke softly and played loudly. In 1992, he moved to a bigger club, FC Girondins de Bordeaux. This was a step up, a bigger stage, more pressure. And Zinedine was ready. At Bordeaux, he became one of the best players in France. He scored goals. He created chances. He made the players around him better. He also learned to speak up on the pitch, though he never shouted. His teammates learned to listen for his quiet voice. In 1996, he led Bordeaux to the final of the UEFA Cup, a major European competition. They did not win. But the world had seen what Zinedine Zidane could do. Bigger clubs began to call. And in 1996, Zinedine made a decision that would change his life forever. He moved to Italy. To Juventus, one of the biggest clubs in the world, Zinedine had to adapt to a new style of football. Italian football was famous for its tough defense. Opponents would tackle hard and close down space quickly. Zinedine had to learn to keep the ball under intense pressure. On his first day of training with Juventus, a famous, powerful defender tried to intimidate him. The defender charged at Zinedine in a practice game, expecting the quiet French boy to back down. But Zinedine did not back down. He received the ball, let the defender come close, then smoothly nutmegged him. The whole squad burst into laughter. From that day, Zinedine had the absolute respect of his teammates. At Juventus, Zinedine became a global star. He won 2 league titles and was named the best player in the world. In one famous match, Zidane received the ball with his back to the goal. 2 defenders closed in instantly. In less than 1 second, he put his foot on the ball and spun his body a full 360 degrees, dragging the ball away and leaving both defenders standing completely still. The crowd went silent for a moment, then they roared. Today, the world calls this iconic move the Zidane roulette. It was absolute genius. The shy boy from Castellane was now a master. He still did not talk much, but when he spoke, people listened. When he played, the world watched. And then came 1998. The World Cup was hosted by France. The whole country was watching. The whole world was watching. France had a good team, but no one expected them to win. No one except Zinedine Zidane. The 1998 World Cup was a journey of ups and downs. In the early matches, Zinedine did not play well. He was nervous. The pressure was enormous. That means very, very heavy. The whole country expected him to be perfect. In one match, against Saudi Arabia, Zinedine was sent off. He received a red card. That means he was forced to leave the game. The referee showed the card after Zinedine stepped on an opponent's leg. It was not intentional, but the referee decided it was a dangerous action. Zinedine had let his team down. He had let his country down. As he walked off the pitch, the stadium went silent. Zinedine sat alone in the dressing room for 30 minutes after the match. He did not move. He just stared at the floor. The newspapers were cruel. They said he was not good enough. They said he could not handle the pressure. After the red card, Zidane went silent. His teammates said he barely spoke for days. But when he returned to training, he worked harder than anyone. He was not finished. He helped his team reach the final. And on July 12, 1998, Zinedine Zidane walked onto the pitch at the Stade de France in Paris to play the biggest game of his life. The opponent was Brazil, the best team in the world, the defending champions. No one gave France a chance. But Zinedine Zidane did not care about what people said. In the 27th minute of the match, France had a corner kick. The ball came into the box. Zinedine jumped. He rose above the Brazilian defender, and he scored with his head. The stadium exploded. In the 45th minute, just before halftime, the same thing happened. Another corner, another header, another goal. The ball curled in from the left, and Zinedine timed his jump perfectly. He sent the ball into the net. Zinedine Zidane had scored 2 goals in the World Cup final with his head, a part of his body that was not even his strongest. France won the match 3-0. They were world champions, and Zinedine Zidane became a hero. But here is the truth. Zinedine did not become a hero because he scored 2 goals. He became a hero because of what he represented. He was the son of immigrants, the boy from the poor neighborhood, the quiet child who was told he was not good enough. And now, he had lifted the World Cup trophy in front of the whole world. For many people in France, especially immigrant families, Zinedine Zidane was more than a footballer. He was a symbol of hope, a symbol of possibility. If Zinedine could do it, maybe they could too. 2 years later, at Euro 2000, Zidane did it again. He led France through another brutal tournament to the final against Italy. With just seconds remaining in the game, France was losing 1-0. The Italian players were already celebrating on the sidelines. The whole country of France was heartbroken. Then, in the final seconds of normal time, France suddenly scored 1-1. The game went to extra time. And in extra time, the French team scored a historic golden goal, an old rule where the first team to score in extra time wins the match instantly. The stadium exploded. France had won. They were now the back-to-back champions of the world and Europe. Zidane was named the best player of the tournament. He was now undisputed as the best player on the planet. In 2001, he moved to Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world. The transfer fee was 75 million euros, a world record at the time. At Real Madrid, he was part of the most expensive squad ever assembled. Over the following years, the club signed one superstar after another. Ronaldo arrived in 2002, then Beckham in 2003, alongside Figo and Raul. The world had never seen anything like it. They called this era the Galacticos, the galaxy of stars. On his first day, the other players watched him train. Within 10 minutes, they saw what made him special. He never wasted a pass. He never looked rushed. He made the game look simple. But the pressure was immense. Teammates like Ronaldo and Beckham had giant egos. Zinedine had to learn to lead without raising his voice. He did it through example and quiet discipline. He never shouted. He never complained. He just played. Zinedine continued to shine. He won the Champions League in 2002 with a goal that many people call the greatest goal in the history of the competition. He received the ball on his left foot, turned, and struck it flawlessly. A perfect volley. A volley is striking the ball before it touches the ground. The ball flew into the net. The goalkeeper did not even move. He was at the top of the world, but life was not done testing Zinedine Zidane. The 2006 World Cup was supposed to be his final goodbye. Zinedine was 34 years old. He had already announced that he would retire after the tournament. This was his last chance to win the World Cup again, and he almost did. France played beautiful football. Zinedine was brilliant. He led his team to the final once again. The opponent was Italy, a strong team, a tough opponent. The match was tense. Both teams played well. In the 7th minute, Zinedine scored a penalty kick, a free shot at the goal from a fixed spot. He made a small, risky chip called a panenka, a softly chipped penalty that tricks the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper dived the wrong way. It was a perfect goal, confident, calm, beautiful. France was winning. But Italy scored later in the match. The game went to extra time, 30 more minutes of play. And then, in the 110th minute, something happened that shocked the world. Zinedine Zidane was walking away from an Italian player named Marco Materazzi. The two men had exchanged angry words. Materazzi had said something insulting about Zidane's family. Whatever he said, it made Zinedine stop. He turned around. He walked back toward Materazzi. And then, in front of 80,000 people in the stadium and millions watching on television, Zinedine Zidane headbutted Marco Materazzi in the chest. A headbutt is hitting someone forcefully with your head. The referee showed the red card. Zinedine was sent off. He walked off the pitch. He walked past the World Cup trophy. He walked into the dressing room alone. France lost the final. Italy won. And Zinedine Zidane's playing career ended not with glory, but with a shock. After the match, Zinedine apologized publicly. He said he was ashamed. For weeks, he did not leave his house. He accepted the punishment. Zinedine Zidane made a terrible mistake. He knew it. He felt it deeply. But he did not let that dark moment define the rest of his life. After retiring as a player, Zinedine took time away from football. He thought about his life. And in 2016, he returned to Real Madrid as a head coach. Most people thought he would fail. He had no experience as a top coach. He was too quiet, too gentle. But Zinedine Zidane had heard those doubtful words before. As a coach, Zinedine was brilliant. He won the Champions League 3 times in a row. No other coach had ever done that in the modern era. He won league titles. He won cups. He managed the biggest egos in football by staying calm and speaking softly. The quiet boy from Castellane had become one of the greatest coaches in the history of football. Here's what his story teaches us. First lesson, your background does not decide your future.